Hey all, double 18 Seth Shadow here. There's been some big circulation around social media these days where the Newtype Rising booster packs, not boxes but packs, have been circulating around some department stores recently. So, in addition to local stores starting carrying these, it looks like we have a huge surplus that's coming into the singles market here along with that. When you take a look at some of these numbers for some of the legendaries that are on here, the Kshatriya is now the best selling of them on TCG Player and still has a market price in the 20s. However, the same can't be said for any of the other legendaries right now. Even the Gundam Death Scythe, which has been one of the most popular legendaries, has actually dropped all the way down to a base of $15 and has 102 listings on the market now. And on top of that, the market price is also around 1750. It's staggering just how much a card that was almost $50 has dropped off so far. And the same can be said for the Freedom Gundam underneath it, which is at 131 listings right now. This was already on its way down, and now it's going even further down. The market price on this card is now about $13. And then there's also what I would say is the fan favorite for American players, at least, is the Wing Gundam Zero, which has 132 listings, a little higher than the Freedom right now, and is about $18. Market price is also around there too. Other ones include the Shars Gelgoog and the Destroy Unicorn, which both have market prices around 15. The biggest of the pluses in this set, Overflowing Affection, has already dropped all the way back down to $100, which was around the price where it started on when this set first came out. This card was on its way to $200, but didn't quite make that. And now the market price is around 113. The LR++ pluses for the Gundam and the Gundam Aerial are still up there in price, where the Gundam Aerial is still around 620 with a market price of about 590, and the Gundam is at 579 with a market price close to 390. Even though LR Plus of the Wing Gundam Zero is starting to move back down to where it was before, now it's around $80 with a market price of 86. A little further down to 70, and it's basically right back where it started. Marita Cruz is currently around $5 to pick up for the rare, and the rare plus is at $60 at the lowest, so that's still up there. And on top of that, it's still got a smaller amount of listings in comparison to some of the others. Marita Cruz and the Kshatriya are still among some of the most popular cards in this set, so it's not much of a surprise. The Kshatriya's LR Plus is also going back down in value, but it's still around $50, so it's not like it's really dropped off that far. The Death Scythe's LR Plus is also no longer in the $100 to $80 range at the top, but it's basically around $67 now. But things are just with more quantities coming up. The Shenlong rare is now $3. The gun cannon is still about $3 too, and they both have about the same amount of listings. Even if we move on to the second page, the Common Plus Plus resource of the Gundam has 60 listings on the market for around 34, far lower than the market price of about 45. Duo Maxwell's Rare Plus is now about 38. Of course, thanks to the shop promo, that also contributes to this loss. And otherwise, other things like the Dual Gundam Assault Shroud is now at a market price of about 3. The Battle of Aces alternate art Rare Plus is also going down around 1650. It's just fallout everywhere, so it's getting far more accessible to pick up the cards that you want. Some things are, of course, still expensive, like the LR++, and Overflowing Affection is still no slouch in price, and some of these resources still maintain some decent value, like the Wing Gundam Zero common resource, which is the plus version, is still a $12 card and a market price of about 15, and if we take a look at sales, even though it's dropped off, over today, we've still seen this card sell for $14. So there's still popularity in picking up some of these pluses, irregardless. Ultimately, when it comes to the booster pack Newtype Rising, with more quantity that's in circulation, the pricing of singles has just gone down and there's a lot more available now. However, the same can't be said for any of the starter decks. While I've seen a decent amount of news that we've been seeing Newtype rising booster packs going around places, I haven't seen any new news about the starter decks. So these are still maintaining some significant value right now. If you wanted to pick up Heroic Beginnings' actual full deck here, it's $48 at the lowest, and the market price is in the 40s too. $42 right now. As a result, a lot of the singles that are exclusive to this, and a lot of the pluses that you can get, are still commanding some pretty good value. The Zwart, which is commonly used for any deck that utilizes white now, is still about a $4 to $5 card. The Gundam, I had pointed this out before, but the legendary rare that you can get of the Gundam here is not too far off from the beta version in terms of pricing. The gap is still about $4 or $5 now, but I mean, for a starter deck, which should eventually see a reprint, versus a beta set that's very unlikely to ever see a reprint again, that's really odd to see. The LR Plus of the Gundam, though, is still up there in value at about 50 in comparison to its market price, but the market price is still, I mean, it's dropped off from there. The market price is currently around 67, while the baseline is still 50. Unforeseen Incident is a $3 card to pick up in here as well. Amuro is exclusive to here in the beta, so it's at least $1 to pick up. But the common plus of Amuro is a pretty solid 37 plus with a market price closer to 39. Sled of Mercury is currently at $19 for its plus with a market price of about 23. Stuff like the white base is also about 15. But yeah, without any additional printings of the starter decks, these cards are going to continue to see additional value for a while until we finally see some circulation going. There's hope, though. There's also cards like Siege Ploy from Wings of Advance, which is currently around $2 to pick up. It's actually not a bad tech card when you consider it. I think it's just a matter of a lot of players playing it incorrectly initially for those who don't understand the concept of how attacking works. Because I've seen two players make this mistake before where they attempt to use it to stop an attack that's currently in progress, but they forget that you have to rest a unit in order to declare the attack. However, this can be used to basically neutralize blockers as well as just neutralize other attacks that may be incoming. Ultimately, the card had a low price of about 28 cents, and it had a lot of sales less than $1 for a while. But now we've actually been seeing it go for as high as $3 in the last few weeks. So it's definitely got a lot of significant value. Char Zaku 2, which is exclusive to the Xeon Rush deck, well, specifically this version of it, the one that is able to get you a Xeon unit from the top 3 of your deck. So this one is going up in value right now with a base price of around $8.50 and a market price of $8.25. You were able to pick this up for pretty cheap early on, and we've been seeing prices as high as $12.50 for this card now. Ultimately, when you look at the first page, there are lots of $9 listings that continue to move up from there. The card is pretty solid overall just to play Rush or wanting to play Xeon, and ultimately it's just a nice card. Close Combat's Common Plus, which is also exclusive to the Xeon Rush deck, is up there in value, but it's still not ridiculously expensive. $23 right now for the lowest listing and 8 listings on the market. And ultimately, Close Combat was one of those that was actually a pretty solid pickup from the deck in the first place when it comes to the pluses that you can grab out of the random pack. Because the low sale price over the release date was $12. Now the high is 35, and when it comes to its availability, we're looking at 25 all the way into the 30s, and that's kind of where it just stays until it moves up into the 40s. Even the Aegis Gundam, the mobile armor mode, the common plus of this one actually saw a buyout over this last week, but it seems we have some more listings back on the market, giving it some lower prices back. It's currently at a market price of around $17. The lowest listing is $15, but that's actually it's just a one-off, because that one then jumps up to $22 for the next listing, and after that, it basically just jumps into the 30s after a few more. So the Aegis mobile armor mode, which is literally just a Breach 3, is getting some popularity here. The winning promo of Unforeseen Incident has been dropping off in value, but it's still the biggest one that you can pick up from the entire winter pack set. It's currently $37, and this card had initially been selling as high as 110, and it's still on its way down. It's been in the 60s for the last week, but we have a number of listings that brought it down into the 40s, so it's still a pretty solid pickup if you are able to win your locals. With Japanese cards also making their splash on TCG Player here and there, I do want to remind players that when it comes to a lot of these token cards, like the EX bases, the EX resources, and even the resources themselves, you are allowed to play alternate languages in any format when it comes to these cards. You are only required to play your particular language when it comes to cards in the main deck. So as a result, when you do see some of the low prices, when you're just browsing through the whole list of some of these cards like this EX base of the Strike Gundam, which you got from the deck box if you bought that, well, they're currently around $35 to pick up, but there are Japanese copies that you can pick up for about 18s. Still much higher than what the deck box actually sold for, but it's still significantly cheaper, and you are allowed to use Japanese copies in Chinese or English formats. So that's something else to keep in mind. Now, if you're just wanting to pick up the English version, which has its plausibility, keep in mind that it is going to be an additional premium to do so. And what I mean by just kind of taking a look at value like that is when you take a look at the Strike, it's currently showing the Japanese copy at the low of $18. And even if you take a look at the original RX-78 Gundam, you saw that the price was in the 40s, but that's also a Japanese copy, and the English copies are still over $197 right now. And when you take a look at the actual sales, the Japanese copies are moving here and there for about 40, and the English copies have been moving here and there in the 200s. Even with slightly decreasing prices, these cards are still not cheap to pick up right now. Some are going down here and there, like some of the resources from the additionally printed collector sets. And so that's something else that we just need more prints overall to keep these things kind of cheap and rather accessible. But at the same time, that also dims down the collector value of some of these if you just keep on printing them over and over. So there's got to always be that balance there to make these somewhat worthwhile to actually try and go for. And that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys later.